Here's why you are always tired after eating. There are two parts to this. Number one is nutrition, and number two is social. The number one thing is that I want you to take away from nutrition is that carbs, and a lot of them, especially in the morning, hurt your ability to think and to do like mental tasks, like what I'm doing here, recording a video, or studying for an exam. Doing any of that, that takes a lot of your brain power. And if you just fucking go oatmeal cereal max, that's not going to be good. So you want to prioritize if you eat in the morning at all. Um, Keto and or carnivore foods, so things like anything that isn't a carb. That's fine. Eggs are amazing. I wouldn't really recommend a steak in the morning because I just fucking dumb. Um, what's it called? Or just maybe fast with a T, right? Fast for mental performance. I put that there. You have to be okay with just not eating because it's you're much more sharp that way. You're in ketosis. You're going superhuman mode. Very nice. So it also has to do with your digestion. If you eat something very heavy and very fucking carb focused, you're gonna be digesting it a lot, and this has a twofold effect. Number one is the physical. If you eat something that this doesn't have to do with the carbs, but if you eat something that your body just doesn't like whatsoever, that's gonna make you shit yourself, to put it eloquently, and that's going to distract you from whatever work you need to be doing. And the mental aspect is that you're just going to feel like fucking right. And this doesn't only happen with carbs. This can happen with like very spicy food, things there that are very high fat, so that are very heavy. It doesn't happen usually if you just eat a clean red meat and a clean fucking egg. Let's just say. This doesn't happen, but if you eat something that you're not used to, like let's say you eat a goat curry from an Indian restaurant and you have a bunch of rice and naan with it, you will feel the physical effects of the digestion, and you will also not be able to perform anything mentally, and you will just be forced to fucking lay there. I'm speaking from personal experience. It is very, very tasty, Indian food, but it does not make me very smart. So, there's another small thing that not many people I've heard speak about. I've only heard Sadhguru speak about. He's like, what you have to consider is that you must give me money, or you will not be reincarnated. That's my Sadhguru impression. So he talks about alive versus dead foods, which is basically if it's alive, it's either a vegetable or like a fish, um, something that's very fresh, something you think of as very fresh, like a bunch of salads, a bunch of fucking greens, a bunch of fruits, berries, and fish are like more distant from us than land animals. Is the his like theory is that since the fish are further away from us than land animals, we're more okay with eating them, and it affects us less to eat them. And also, you can eat a bunch of fish raw, as in the case of sushi, and so that would count more as an alive food rather than a dead food. Now, dead foods would be the opposite of this. The exception to this are like steak and eggs. For some reason, steak and eggs are just like very fucking big manly masculine foods, and those are pretty much very good for everyone. But if you have something like I don't know, baby back ribs, fucking McDonald burger. So whatever that's been ultra processed, it's probably been dead for a while, probably maybe a little bit expired, that you don't want to be eating because that's also gonna fuck you up mentally and physically. So the alive foods are gonna be some things that are fresher, like ginger, fruits, green tea, fish, and the dead foods are gonna be shit like pork. Actually, just, I don't know. I mean, I feel kind of gross about eating pork because it just like a little bit stigmatized, but at the same time, it's very tasty. But it tends to be heavy. It does tend to be a heavier and more like dead food. So, dead foods, yeah, are gonna be things like that. Things like ultra processed burgers, ultra processed fucking chicken nuggets, things like that. That was the nutrition aspect. Now, here's a social factor. Let me cover the video so you don't get distracted while I talk about this. This is a very, very funny video, and you will get to see it very soon. So, food doesn't affect you nearly as much in a social situation, which means that if you're not fucking lonely and if you have friends, then you can basically ignore the video from here on out and from before here and just go live your life. Because if you're around good friends, is what I put in the bottom here. If you eat in good company, none of the rest of this video matters. Because there have been many, many times when, let's say, I don't know, I'm in Hungary or I'm in fucking Canada, where like we eat something that on paper isn't very good. Like it's a pastry, it's something even a bit processed. It's something like out of a can. It's something like basically survival food. Like, I don't know. In Canada, we went camping. We made like nice pasta out of like canned olives. things like that. And on paper, it's like, hey, what the fuck? You're using not fresh foods, you're using pasta, which is a bunch of carbs. What's wrong with you? But since you're eating in good company and you're in like more of a nice outdoors wilderness situation, none of it really matters because it balances itself out. If you're eating by yourself, alone, um, this is what I would do. Goodness fucking gracious, in quarantine, I would have like Chick-fil-A by myself. Very, very nice times, very, very fun and non-depressing times. It was super tasty, but it just made me like feel retarded because that's a very dead food. Like it's been processed a lot, which is why I wrote here. If you always eat alone, especially if the food is shit, then you miss out on a key part of the human experience. Not very good, not very good. So, here's the video. Hold on. It's a LARB plus wrestling story. I'll tell the story briefly. So basically, my friends and I were on a big excursion day out. We went to like Santa Barbara, which is a nice beach town. We played volleyball with the huz, and then we came back, and then we got some food, and then fucking after basically think here in Los Angeles, not many people know how to like finish their plate. Everyone like takes two bites and is like, oh, I'm so full, I'm so full. And me coming from the Hungary second generation trauma from the World Wars, uh, I'm like, what the fuck? What are you leaving food here for? So I just always scoop that up. Very nice. And also I'm like, I can eat more than a few of my friends. So I ordered a serving of larb, which is like the most fragrant, most spiced, like mixture of like ground pork and rice, toasted rice, in a cabbage leaf. So it it does have a lot of lime, and also the cabbage is pretty live, so it's not the worst thing in the world. That kind of balances it out. But on paper, that should be it's kind of a light food. It's a pretty light food, but on paper, I should not have been able to be physically active after that because I should have been like crashed, right? Because it's pork, it's a bunch of spices that I'm not used to, bunch like fish sauce, things like that, rice, like toasted rice flakes, so it's not the same as like cooked rice. But on paper, I should not have been able to handle that very well. But since I was with friends, I also ate most of my friend's portion, or like half of my friend's portion and mine. Uh, and then after, I was able to still wrestle with. Hold on. This wasn't the. Oh, wait, hold on, wait. Okay, here we are. And so I don't exactly know who won here, but it was a nice match. No, I'm kidding. I got absolutely curb stomped. This guy's like 240 pounds, the, the same height as me, so it's not very, not. It was very fun, but it wasn't very fair. No, it's. He's also trained. He's also turbo chatty guy. Observe. Hold on, I think the audio actually adds to this. Oh, motherfucker! Wow. Yeah, so I get kind of rolled pretty badly there, but I was able to do that, and I was able to have that nice physical time with my friends. That doesn't sound thus at all, because they were there, and the social aspect outweighed the nutrition. So here's the biggest thing that you have to consider for yourself. Do you prioritize physically doing something great, like lifting a lot of weight, being the strongest arm wrestler that you can be, or fucking I don't know, doing your martial arts very well, or do you prioritize your mental performance for studying and for doing your work? Sometimes this lethargy can be good because it promotes an insane amount of recovery. Think of the dog, the bull mastiff, right? It's a very big, thick dog. It's a large neck, large head, and it basically just lounges around. It's very lazy, but when it's time to defend its owners, it snaps up, fucking wow, and everything's good. So they they have their food. They're a little bit lethargic, but then when it's time to go, it's time to go, and then they perform. Also think of Devin Larratt. He eats like 60 pieces of fucking sushi in one sitting, and then he goes and he just says some like some weird, crazy like homeless ramblings like I'm so full. It's gonna be so full. You're so empty, and then he just wins every match. So sometimes when you have this like explosive bursts of performance that you need to do, and then you're more worried about the physical than the mental, then this can be good, and then you can basically just eat whatever and like turbo bulk your way. It's not sustainable long term, but it will help you very, very much in short term physical performance to ignore the nutrition advice and eat more of the dead foods, like eat more calorie dense foods, not super fresh things. Still keep on top of your micronutrients and your hydration, but Yeah, you can have definitely a big old fucking barbecue feast or like, 70 million pieces of sushi, um, like a humongous bowl of pasta and still like perform physically after that. But sometimes you need the really fresh foods for your mental alertness. This is for studying for an exam. Uh, you definitely don't want to have. Maybe you want to carb load the night before an exam, but I don't know. Especially when you're studying, you don't want to be busy digesting like a whole thing of oats. I remember that's a big thing they told us in fifth grade. Very nice. Teaching the young generation. Fuck yeah, my heart goes out to you. Uh, California school system. Before every like standardized exam, they were like, "Oh yeah, make sure your child eats big breakfast before this. Make sure your kid eats a fucking large bowl of oatmeal." I think the oatmeal I just like extrapolated from that. Uh, and that became like synonymous with like the before exam meal. But if it's not clear enough already, I don't recommend that because that's a very heavy, glutinous, carb heavy meal that you don't want to be having before a big mental performance. So before the AP tests, I think honestly, yeah, I think before the AP tests, which are like in here in America, the version version of like the back. No, it isn't. That's not really comparable. School in America, high school in America is so easy compared to schools in Europe are probably from what I've heard. But basically, before the AP tests, I wouldn't have any food. I which is an AP test just in one subject. So it's like it's calculus and it tests your like free response and the multiple choice or the other way around. Um, there's a bunch of English APs, there's a bunch of math, science, history, all of those languages, and there are some miscellaneous ones. There all those are tests on their own. And before those tests, and they're like 3 hours each, I wouldn't have anything. I would just have a fuckload of caffeine and then like tweak out and go, and then I would perform, which I the second time around. So I did the AP calculus test once, and I didn't do that well. I got a 4. I wanted to get a 5. The 5 is the max score you can get. And the second time around, I just decided, yeah, fuck it, I'll take it again. But I wasn't in the class. And that time I got a 3 because I wasn't in the class. But which is still a pass. So I still managed to pass just by, fasting and like tweaking out on caffeine and just like writing things down that I thought were funny. So that goes to show you the power of fasting and not power of not fucking oatmeal maxing, power of not having a bunch of carbs before a big exam. Same thing applies before dates or before meeting with friends. You don't want to be having like a big old let's just say like pasta with like a meat ragu, or you don't want to be having a large like roast chicken or like pot roast with a bunch of mashed potato things like that. Shit that's very carb, fat, and protein heavy, just things that are very, very heavy meals. You don't want to be doing that before dates because maybe odor issues will arise, and before meeting with friends because you can't really like focus on what they have to say. It's a different thing that what if you eat a big meal with friends versus before and then you go meet them after. That I wouldn't recommend before going to a social outing to be stuffed because that is what the social outing is going to be for a good majority of the time. You guys are going to get food together, and that's one of the highlights. So, yeah, whether you need to use your brain for work or for studying or before dates or meetings with friends, I definitely don't recommend eating this fucking carb heavy horseshit, and I recommend prioritizing more of the alive foods and or the keto carnivore if you really. Oh, yeah, there we are. Whereas if you're prioritizing the physical, go go do whatever you want, go do whatever makes you perform the best in the moment. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.